Once again, good afternoon and welcome to our Job Seekers Toolkit follow-up class. Today's class will be hosted by Jamie and Nikki with the Plano Public Library, and we also have Caitlin with us today for some technical support. Before we begin, I do need to let you know about some ground rules that we have set up for today's program. You will be muted during the class, and we do have your video blocked, so you will only see the instructor's screen. At the top of your screen, you can find an exit full screen option if you need to get to other things on your computer during today's class. You are welcome to ask questions during the program or request that we repeat information at any time. You should see an icon at the bottom of your screen that says chat, which you can click on to open the chat window. That chat is set to be seen by library staff only, and please note that any inappropriate comments will cause your immediate removal from today's class. If you prefer, you should also see a link for the Q&A at the bottom of your screen, and you may submit questions that way as well. Questions asked during the class today may be answered in that chat box or Q&A box. They may be held until a break or the end of the class, or we may answer them at the time if they are pressing. A recording of this class will be available in a few days as well, so if you would like to watch today's class and review after getting that recording, that is an option for you. We will try to take it slow during our demonstrations and explanations today, just in case you're taking notes or accessing resources along with us. All right. As we get started this afternoon, I do need to remind you that I'm a librarian and not a business expert. So the information that I'm sharing with you today is designed to be an overview and help connect you with additional resources that may be helpful during your job search. The goal for today's class is to outline the steps of your job search after an application or an interview. So we have 6 key areas that we'll be exploring today. First, we will define the job search follow-up process and outline what activities are included in this part of your job search. We'll outline specific action steps with timelines for the days immediately following that inquiry or interview. We'll review some best practices for tracking your job search activities. We'll look at some possible next steps for your job search based on your current progress and outcomes. We'll discuss best practices in declining a job offer that just isn't a good fit for you. And finally, we will also discuss best practices in accepting a job offer, including steps to help you transition in between jobs. Let's start with an important question. What is follow-up? When we talk about follow-up during your job search, we're talking about any activity related to tracking the status of your job search, which includes any inquiries you've made, applications you've submitted, or interviews that you have attended. These activities let you check on your status and express continued interest in whatever that opportunity may be. Follow-up activities might include things like sending thank you or follow-up emails, requesting feedback, self-reflection, including that time you spend thinking about your job search process, the interview, or the specific opportunity, tracking your job search activities, determining your next steps, and accepting and declining offers you may receive. These activities are an important part of your job search because they help reconfirm that you're interested in the position. You're showing the recruiter that you're still actively engaged in the process. But do keep in mind that this will be a delicate balance between expressing interest without being too annoying about it. They also let you gather information and identify next steps, so you can find out when an employer hopes to make a decision, determine next steps like your follow-up interview or a background check, or even remove that opportunity from your list if the position has been filled. They allow you to share your specific qualifications, particularly if you forgot to mention something during your interview or application, or if you'd like to highlight a specific project or quality you would bring to the team. And they help you determine what's working or not in your job search. That self-reflection can help you figure out if you're finding the types of jobs you want to apply for, if maybe you need to develop some new skills, or if you need to change your approach. This lets you adapt as needed for a more successful search. You can keep what's working and adjust what isn't. And finally, they'll help you keep your job search focused and organized. You can easily see where you are in the process and what next steps look like. And if you're applying for multiple jobs, you can more easily track what comes next for each and be sure that you are always ready when an employer contacts you. Are there any questions before we jump into our content this afternoon?
All right, so to begin, after your interview, you can make a positive impression on your interviewers and show your interest in the position by sending a thank you note. A thank you note can be a handwritten letter, a typed letter, or an email. The format you choose will typically depend on the type of company that you are interviewing at, but an email will usually work best. If you're interested in looking at some examples of interview thank you notes, Purdue University's online writing lab actually has some pretty great examples. Just make sure that you're making these your own and not just copying and pasting. And we do have a link to that website that we will share in the chat if you're interested. It is important to send the thank you note within 24 hours of your interview to each person who interviewed you. When writing your thank you notes, be sure that you are polite and professional. Make sure to use formal language, business formatting, and avoid slang or abbreviations. You will want to make sure that you personalize each thank you note. Use the interviewer's name, not just their job title or sir/madam, and tailor each thank you note to that individual. It is a good practice to ask each interviewer for their full names during the interview so that you know exactly whom to send your thank you notes to. And you also want to make a point to stand out. Don't settle for the generic thank you note. Reference particular points of your interview conversation. Maybe mention something unique about you or your experiences that makes you the ideal candidate for the position. On the screen, you will see an example email of a thank you note. And as you can see, thank you notes should be pretty short, usually around 1 to 3 paragraphs, and there are some things you'll want to make sure you include. A formal business letter heading for physical letters, or a formal subject line mentioning the position that you applied for emails. You'll want to include a formal personalized greeting to the interviewer, followed by an expression of appreciation thanking the interviewer for their time and the opportunity to interview. You'll want to show a demonstration of enthusiasm for the position and company, reiterating your desire to be hired, and 1 or 2 things that you learned during the interview that reinforce this desire. You can follow this with a brief reminder of why you would be the perfect fit for the position, maybe mention some relevant skills and qualifications that you have. You can add anything that you forgot to say into the interview, or if there's anything that you feel like you need to clarify, this would be a good time to start that process. You can then add an invitation for the interviewer to connect with you along with your contact information. This could be phone or email. And then a call to action, not just hope that you will speak soon. So for example, I look forward to hearing from you soon. You can end your email with an additional expression of appreciation and then a professional salutation, such as sincerely or warm regards and your full name. Thank you notes can be sent after each interview step unless you are explicitly told not to follow up. Even if you don't think the interview went well, you should always send a thank you note expressing your appreciation for being considered. Remember, you are still making an impression on your interviewers. And most importantly, before you hit send, do not forget to proofread, reread, and double check physical or email addresses. If you do accidentally happen to send a thank you note to the wrong person, it's okay. Simply apologize to the incorrect recipient and send your note to the correct person. After you send your thank you notes, be patient. It's pretty normal for companies to take some time to review applicants and not contact you immediately. If you are really interested in a position and have not heard back from the company in a few weeks, or if the date that they stated you would hear back from them has passed, you can send a follow-up note. Follow-up notes should be sent to the same people that you sent your thank you notes to. And again, this can be a handwritten letter, a typed letter, or an email, but usually an email will work best. When you're writing a follow-up note, be sure that you are, again, polite, professional, and positive. While you might be frustrated by the long wait, this is no excuse to write a rude or demanding message. No calling them out for missing deadlines or giving them ultimatums. This will definitely not help you or your case and may even cost you the job. Make sure that you're personalizing each follow-up and emphasize your interest in that position once again. You want your follow-up note to catch their attention and highlight why they should hire you. On your screen, you will see another example here, and this time it's of a follow-up email. So follow-up notes or emails should include similar elements as your thank you notes. So you'll want to have a formal personalized greeting to the interviewer, a brief explanation that you are following up on the position that you interviewed for, including the date, and an additional demonstration of your interest for the position with an inquiry about if a decision has been made. Remember to include a call to action. Again, not just hope that you will speak soon. So for example, I am excited to hear back from you about your next steps. And then additional closing thank you and a professional salutation with your full name. Do not send more than 2 follow-up notes that are well spaced out, at least a couple weeks in between each. And if you do not hear back after the second follow-up note, graciously accept that you are likely not selected for the position. There are some circumstances when you should not send a follow-up. This includes if you're not interested in the position following the interview, or if you're going to reject an offer for a position. You also should not send a follow-up if it has been less than a few weeks and if their stated decision date has not passed yet. Remember to be patient. If something significant in your situation or job portfolio comes up between the interview date and the hereby date the hiring team gave you, you can and should reach out to the hiring team to inform them of these changes. For example, if you applied for your dream job but get offered a job somewhere else before hearing back, you can write the hiring team that you were offered a position elsewhere, but that you feel that their company and position is the perfect fit for you, and that you hope to hear back from them before submitting a decision on the offer you have already received. If you decide the position or company are not a good fit for you, or if a situation comes up that prevents you from accepting the position, maybe personal life changes or a promotion that you want at your current company, you should reach out to the company and let them know that you wish to withdraw your application as soon as you make this decision. No matter the situation, be sure that you communicate professionally and graciously, and whatever you do, do not ghost potential employers by stopping communication. You do not want to burn bridges.
As part of your follow-up, you may want to ask for feedback from employers or interviewers about how your interview went, especially if you're not selected to continue the process or not offered a position. You might have an idea of what went well and what didn't in your interview, but your interviewer most likely has a different perspective, which can help you improve going forward with your job search. You'll want to wait to request feedback from the employer until you know for sure that you are not being offered the position. Your request should not be lengthy, and you should also not utilize this time to try to convince the employer that they have made the wrong decision. You want your request to come across as sincere and not just an attempt to push yourself back into the candidate pool. Make sure you thank the employer for the opportunity you were provided. Not all employers will provide feedback, but it is worth asking as you may receive valuable insight. If you do receive feedback, it will require some self-reflection and an open mind to decide how to improve your interviews in the future. Keep in mind that although this is an outside perspective, it is also the perspective of only one person, and that some feedback may not be applicable to future interviews depending on the job. Feedback is not a judgment on you personally, and you shouldn't attempt to change your personality just to do better in an interview. You will want to take any feedback given and consider if there are different approaches you can take in the interview process that will incorporate that feedback while still remaining true to yourself. For example, you may be given feedback that you focus too much on the accomplishments of the team you were leading at your former job and not enough on your own accomplishments. You can then take this feedback and incorporate focusing more on your own accomplishments while still highlighting that you led a productive and noteworthy team. Are there any questions about what we have discussed so far?
Not at this time.
An important part of the follow-up is making time to reflect on your job search. This includes reflecting on your preparation for any interviews you've attended, reflecting on the specific positions you're applying for and interviewing for, and reflecting on your overall job search process. After each interview, make time to reflect on both your preparation and how you performed during that interview. Here are some things to think about. Did you do a good job researching the position? This means taking time to look at the job duties, qualifications, and expectations. Were you surprised by any of the information shared in the interview, or were you prepared to show how your skills and expertise matched those needs? Did you do a good job researching the company and its culture? Did anything surprise you about the company during your interview? Do you see yourself as a good fit at the organization? Did you prepare and practice for the interview questions? Did you have ready answers and examples for the questions, or was there something that surprised you or threw you off track? Were you well spoken and to the point answering questions, or did you struggle to organize your thoughts or elaborate on your experience? Did you prepare questions to ask the employer at the end of the interview? And did those questions expand on ideas or topics covered during that interview? Or were they just a recap of things that you already talked about? Did your questions show your interest in the position and make you stand out as a candidate? Did you make a good impression by being well dressed and well spoken and arriving on time? And finally, did you have everything you needed for the interview? If you had links or resources to share with the employer, were they accessible and easy to demonstrate? Did you have copies of any requested paperwork or work samples? And were your portfolio, resume, and references up to date and ready to share as needed? As you answer each of these questions, be as honest as possible. For anything that you did well, make a note of how you prepared or responded so you can refer to it during your next opportunity. For anything that you feel you could have done better, think about specific steps to take or changes to make before your next opportunity. In addition to thinking about your interview, it's also important to reflect on the position itself. While you're ideally applying for positions that you think are a good fit, sometimes an interview reveals new details or additional information to consider. An easy place to start is by having some filters around your job search. These things can help you identify what you need or want in a position and evaluate how each specific opportunity aligns with those things. Common considerations include things like location, your salary and benefits, the type of organization, its mission or core values, the programs and services it offers, your job duties, and your opportunities for engagement and growth. You can rate these filters in terms of importance and also mark what things are absolutes, which could be compromised, and which things are automatic deal breakers. On the screen, there's an example of what this could look like, where we list out each of the factors and then consider how important they are to us. I can easily put my criteria into this table, as we've done on the screen, to help evaluate positions. For example, I might say that staying in the Dallas area is a need for me, or that positions that don't offer full benefits are a deal breaker. This will look different for each person, and it may even look different for you at different stages in your career. While no job will be a perfect fit, this can help you find out which opportunities are the best fit. If something is highly important to you and is in your list of must-haves, you want to make sure that the position includes it. In addition to looking at those overall filters, you'll want to consider how you felt about this specific opportunity. Here are some additional questions to keep in mind. What excited you about this position? Does it have an element or aspect that makes it stand out from others? What red flags, if any, did you see during the interview? Was there anything that concerns you or gave you pause as you considered this opportunity? What strengths could you bring to the position? Think about whether this job matches the strengths you already have and if you think you can continue to grow those talents. Do you feel like you're a good match? What knowledge or skills gaps do you have? Are these things you think you could learn on the job or through more training after accepting the position? Or do you think you need to gain more skills and knowledge before pursuing similar opportunities? Finally, think about your overall job search process. What have you learned so far about finding jobs in your industry? What adjustments do you need to make? When you know what's working, you can be more intentional about incorporating those elements. When you notice that something isn't working, it becomes an opportunity to refine the process. For example, I might find that searching for the keyword librarian doesn't get many results. Changing my keyword to library might help me find more opportunities. As you do all of this reflecting, there are a few things to keep in mind. First, ask what questions. This can help you keep an objective mindset because you're focusing on specific, concrete ideas. It can also help you keep a positive frame of mind, even if your search isn't going very well. Be intentional about making time for reflection. Developing your self awareness and thinking critically are skills that take time. To really apply what you're discovering, you must first give yourself the time and space to do that. You might consider this reflection and follow up something that you intentionally schedule as part of your job search activities. Keep track of your interviews and progress as part of your job search log, and we'll talk about tracking your job search a little bit more in the next portion of today's class. And finally, use a standard template to reflect. If you ask the same questions after each interview, it's easier for you to make comparisons between opportunities and evaluate your progress. You can make one of your own or find examples online. Are there any questions about that self-reflection? We've spent some time covering different forms of follow-up communication and self-reflection, so now let's move on to talking about tracking your job search activities. Why is tracking your job search so important? Here are a few reasons. Tracking your job search helps you manage the details of each job you're applying for. You can easily see the contact information, dates, and where you are in the process. You can also easily keep track of the status and follow-up timeline for each opportunity. This can make it easier for you to stay on top of small tasks like your thank you emails, and also make sure that you don't forget important milestones like preparing for an interview. Having an overview of your search can help you identify challenges or gaps in your process. You can see where you haven't done enough company research, where your filters might be too narrow, or maybe where your search terms aren't translating to the opportunities that you want. Equally important, it can help you visualize the things that are working well. Having an overview of your job search process can also help you set reasonable goals. You have a better idea of your needs and capacity and can see where you need to allow more or less time for specific activities. It can also help you spread out important tasks like interviews so you have time to prepare and reflect for each. Finally, some unique situations like school job placement assistance or unemployment benefits may require that you track your job search. If so, it's important to establish your process and any requirements up front so you don't have to try and recall important information or details after the fact. Tracking your job search is helpful, but what information do you need to track? The short answer is to include anything that will be helpful to keep your job search organized. This might look different from one person to another, and if you have a unique situation, again, you might need to add some specifics that others might not include. Here are some overall examples of what you might want to make note of. The specific job title that you're applying for and the name of the organization, a link to the job application, posting, or description. And if you are concerned that the job posting may be taken down or unavailable in the future, you might consider making a copy of the key information. Make note of the type of application you submitted, for example, an online application, an in-person inquiry, or an emailed resume, and the date you submitted it, which will help you develop your timeline for following up. You'll want to include the contact information for anyone associated with the hiring decision, and make note of any documents that you have submitted, including your application, cover letter, resume, or work samples. If you use multiple versions of your resume, this can help you keep track of the specifics that you shared with each employer. Also include a way to track the status of your application. At minimum, you'll want to know if you received a yes, a no, or a no response, although some people do prefer to include more steps along that progression. Distinguishing between a no versus a no response can also help you keep your job search in perspective. Not hearing back from a employer is not the same as not getting an offer following your interview. Make note of the details about the application process. You've already made a note of the date you applied, but this can let you track additional steps like phone screenings, interviews, background checks, drug tests, and more leading up to an offer. Details about any interviews you have, and finally, communication notes and follow-up dates. This information is helpful to keep track of when you should send that thank you note, but also make sure that you get those steps done. How should you keep track of this information? The short answer is to choose a method that makes sense to you. Some examples include using a pre-designed work search log, creating a spreadsheet, creating a document, or using a notebook or journal, and we'll look at some examples. On your screen is a job search log from the Texas Workforce Commission. This activity log is available for anyone who happens to be applying for unemployment benefits in the state of Texas. However, you can also download and use this form for your personal work search as well. It includes information about the date and type of activity, information about the organization, contact information, and the results. Your local Workforce Solutions office may also offer a job search log. This example was created by a workforce solutions group in the Houston area, and it includes information about the date, employer, how you applied, and space for your notes and follow-up. If you don't like an existing template, you can also create one of your own. A spreadsheet program like Microsoft Excel or Google Sheets can help you create something customized to your specific needs. This example was created in Google Sheets, but you can download it to Microsoft Excel as well. It includes general information, steps in the application process, steps in the interview process, and space for your notes. This one happens to automatically suggest your next step based on the information that you provide. And if you're worried that you don't have the Excel skills to put together something like this, remember you can download things that are already created with the formatting that you need. If you don't like working with spreadsheets, a single document may make more sense to you. You can include information as separate lines or pages, or create a table in the document with your information. Programs like Microsoft Word or Google Docs are good options for this. This is one example of what your document might look like. As you can see, it includes the job title information, company information, notes about documents and interviews. If you are using a document, you can easily copy and paste information to new pages to ensure consistency between each entry. If you prefer a more hands-on approach like pen and paper, you can also create a job search notebook or journal. You can make individual pages or write ongoing entries, or if you currently use a bullet journal for tracking projects, you can find inspiration for spreads like the ones pictured here. You can customize what you include to your specific needs and preferences. Are there any questions about tracking your job search?
Okay, let's talk about expanding your job search. If you feel like your job search isn't making progress, it may be time to reevaluate your search and determine your next steps. Much like reflecting about the fit for individual jobs, reflecting about your job search process can help give you insights about your next steps. We're going to talk about three main options: expanding your current search, strategizing your search, and pausing your search. If you aren't finding enough opportunities to apply for, expanding your search may help you find new options. This means looking at new and creative ways to find opportunities. Here are some things that you can try. You can review your job titles. Look at different terms and titles that could mean the same or similar things. For example, expanding my search to library might give me more options than just choosing librarian. Look at what terms come up often in the positions that best match what you do. Or you can try expanding your job location. If you are willing to relocate, you may find new opportunities. Or if you want to stay in the same area, you could try searching by the larger metro area rather than a specific city. Feeling really stuck? Grab a map and look at the cities nearby. Make a list and then review opportunities at each one by one. You can add or adjust your keywords. So look at the jobs that were most interesting to you or best match the position that you hope to have. What keywords do they have in common? Try new searches combining these keywords or make a list of synonyms and try searching with those. And you can also continue networking. Use tools available to you like LinkedIn or personal contacts to make connections with different employers. Start by asking them to learn more about their journey to their current position and what recommendations they may have. Building your network of contacts and adding to your professional conversations establishes your brand and makes you more visible. You could also work with a recruiter to identify new connections or opportunities. If you're not making much progress in your job search, it may be time to refocus or strategize. This means thinking about how you approach your job search and what you might do differently. Here are some things that you can try. Identify your transferable skills. Think about what you have learned in your current or former positions that would translate well to a new position. You can use this to focus your resume or interview, or identify new opportunities that might be a good fit for you. This might give you different keywords that you can use to search too. You can also list out all the steps between the job that you have now and the job that you want to have. Is there a step in between those two things that you can take right now? Even if your goal is management someday, you might need to start with something smaller, like leading a project team. So look at different positions that will help you build the skills that you need for your dream job. You can also look for the problems that you can solve. Part of networking is making connections and having conversations. When you hear about challenges, think about the ways that you can solve the problem. Even if there isn't a job specifically available right now, you can use your solutions or expertise to start conversations that could lead to opportunities in the future. Partnering with an organization now in a small project might lead to a bigger opportunity later. And as we talked about earlier, you can continue to build your professional network. The more people you know, the more likely you are to hear about opportunities or be recommended for those opportunities by others. You can start conversations on email listservs, professional communities like LinkedIn, or even by attending business meetings or events. You can build your industry knowledge and presence while waiting for your next opportunity. And finally, you could curate a portfolio that demonstrates your tangible worth. Employers want to know what value you will add to their organization. So think about the stories and work samples that demonstrate your skills and abilities with specific numbers, examples, and samples. These might be things that you shared during an interview, or maybe as part of your online presence on a site like LinkedIn, or it could be a part of a more organized portfolio. So we've talked about expanding and refocusing, but sometimes the best thing to do is to temporarily pause your search. This might happen when your search feels stalled or when you aren't seeing the results that you want. Think proactively about your next steps during this time. Pausing your search doesn't mean that you stop working on your skills. And here are a few examples of when pausing might be the best option for you. If your job search just feels like it has stalled, this often makes you feel defeated or demoralized. Taking a break from your search can help you spend time reflecting on your goals and what your next steps might really look like. Or maybe you aren't finding opportunities that you want to apply for, or you're applying for opportunities that just aren't a good fit. If you aren't a good fit for the company, you likely won't get an interview anyway, and if you do, you probably won't interview well. Take some time to think about what you really want and if there are any ways to reinvigorate your search. If opportunities just aren't there, it may be better to wait for a change in the current job climate and continue to network. Maybe you aren't getting any interviews. Think about what you can do to improve your resume or cover letter. Do you need more concrete examples? What about targeted action-oriented keywords? Take some time to evaluate your documents, including your online presence, and see what adjustments might be helpful. And what if your interviews just don't lead to offers? You can think about what questions you could answer better during interviews, or what questions consistently throw you off. Asking for feedback from interviewers can give you an idea of next steps here. If you feel like you're not a good fit for positions, think about the specific skills that you can work on. Whether it's an online class or more formal training options, a pause in your job search can let you work on skills. Are there any questions about determining your next steps? Okay, so we've interviewed, reflected, waited, and congrats, you have received multiple job offers. But what happens now? How do you decide which position to accept and which to decline? Just because you have received a job offer doesn't mean that you will always want to take it, and that is okay. You may have decided that a position you applied for isn't going to help advance your career, or maybe you like the company, but the position you have been offered isn't the best fit for you at this time. Maybe you received a better offer. Let's talk about gracefully and professionally declining job offers. The first step that you take is going to be carefully considering if you really want to decline an offer that you have received. There is no changing your mind after officially declining an offer. A few essential considerations are going to be your salary. Is your pay going to significantly increase? How would accepting the position impact your mental health and well-being? Can you see yourself growing with this company? And do their values align with your values? And is that even important to you? You can also consider what changed between applying for the job and the offer that has you considering declining. These are all questions that you have hopefully already asked yourself throughout your job search process, but now is the time to decide which position you have been offered that will be the best fit for you. After you are sure you're ready to decline an offer, there are some basic guidelines to follow when you notify the company that you interviewed with. First, do not delay your response. Many companies will give you a deadline of when you must accept or decline your offer. However, if you make up your mind before your allotted time, let the company know. They most likely have other candidates waiting, and delaying your response could cause them to lose potential alternates. Next, you will want to consider the medium that you will be using to decline the job offer. Most people use email, and this is perfectly fine, especially if your communication since the interview has been mostly electronic. Email will allow the company to receive your response quickly and move on to their next candidate. However, if it feels appropriate in your situation, don't hesitate to consider a phone call, especially if you have created a relationship with the hiring manager or want to keep lines of communication open for future opportunities. Once you have decided on your medium, make sure that you express your gratitude. Interviewing and recruiting is time-consuming work, and if you have received an offer, the hiring team is most likely excited about the possibility of hiring you. You will want to ensure that you thank the hiring team for their time and consideration. And if there was anything that stood out to you about your interview or about the company or anything that you learned from the process, make sure that you mention it to them. This will leave the company with a positive impression and memory of you regardless of the declined offer. After you express your gratitude, you will want to provide a reason that you're declining the opportunity. You don't have to go too in-depth about your reasonings or issues that you might have with the position or company or their hiring process. You can keep it simple and to the point with a general explanation. It is okay to let them know that you have accepted another offer that aligns better with your current career goals, or that you accepted an offer with a company that is offering better compensation and growth opportunities. Don't feel the need to go into details of your personal life if it is a more personal reason that you have to decline. A simple, "this position is just not the right fit for me at this time," can suffice. And the last thing you will want to consider is keeping that networking door open. You may decide that you're still interested in the company, but not the position offered, or that it just wasn't the right time. Don't hesitate to mention that to the hiring team and make it known that you would be interested in future opportunities with their company if it aligns more with your career goals and needs. You never know when you might cross paths in the future, and it is a good idea to offer to stay in touch on LinkedIn to help build your professional network. Are there any questions about declining a job offer in a professional manner?
Not about declining a job offer, but we do have a question about receiving feedback from interviews.
Okay, so to go back to the idea of receiving feedback from your interview, how you go about it will most likely depend on how you've heard from the recruiter. So if someone has given you a phone call, you can have a conversation with them at that point. If it's an email that you've received, you may have to go back through your records and see, do you have a contact information that you can go back to that person? Because sometimes we get those form-generated responses that just say the position has been filled. Your basic process is going to be to thank the interviewer for their time. Remember, you want to be courteous. They've taken the time to interview you or review your application, and it builds that professional relationship with them. And then just be polite and ask them for some general feedback. Explain why you want that feedback from them. So maybe you're looking for opportunities to learn, or you'd like to know how you can better prepare for a similar opportunity in the future. And then give a specific request for advice. It helps if you can say something along the lines of, what skills do I need to be successful? Or what could I have done better? Were there any questions that I struggled with where my answers were unclear? Because that gives them something specific that they can focus on, and it feels less like an open-ended void where they're trying to figure out how to share their honest opinion without being hurtful. Make sure that you show appreciation for their expertise and for them taking the time to consider that request for feedback, and then apply the suggestions as much as possible to show that you're taking that feedback seriously, particularly if you are applying feedback from an internal position and you're going to interview with them again in the future. The last thing you want to do is have someone tell you you have something you need to work on, and then we go for a follow-up interview, nothing has changed.
Awesome. Thank you, Jamie. All right. So if you have received a job offer that you would like to accept, again, congratulations. While you may be eager to secure your position and inform your future employer, there are some steps that you can take to ensure that you are getting everything that you expected, as well as ensuring that you leave your current employer with grace and on good terms. Let's first talk a little bit about the job offer process. You may receive an informal offer first. This will likely be in the form of a phone call or an email to let you know that an official offer is on its way, or your potential future employer may ask what you need in an offer to accept the position. This doesn't always happen, but it is a good time to express your appreciation for the offer and make any necessary negotiations regarding salary, benefits, and any other needs. Once you receive an official offer, you will want to make sure that it is in writing. Most employers will email their official offer and lay out details of your role, pay, benefits, and your expected start date. If you happen to receive an official offer over the phone, do make sure to request that a written document is sent to you for review. So how do you respond to that offer? You'll always want to start by expressing your gratitude for the opportunity and then determine what the deadline for you to respond is. Some employers will let you know when you must respond by, but if you're not sure, don't be afraid to ask for a couple of days to review the offer and get back to them. While you don't want to delay your response for too long, you do want to make sure that you're giving yourself enough time to fully understand everything in the offer, and that anything that may have been verbally promised during the interview process, such as vacation days or scheduled flexibility, is documented in your official offer. If you received an informal offer, you should have already done your negotiations. However, if you do not receive that informal offer, or if you see new information in your official offer, now is your time to negotiate. Negotiation is common in the acceptance of an offer, and most employers will anticipate this. So it's important to be prepared when going into these conversations. For example, let's say you are not satisfied with the offered salary. You will want to make sure that you provide a range that you are looking to be in and are able to back up your reasoning for requesting the increase. You'll want to research salaries for the position or similar positions in your area and take into consideration your experience level and any other qualifications you bring along with you, and be prepared to discuss this with your future employer. Before going into negotiations, decide what you are comfortable accepting if the employer doesn't give you what you were requesting or comes back with a slightly different counteroffer. While it is important to advocate for yourself, make sure that you stay professional in your negotiations. Your offers can always be rescinded if you have not officially accepted yet. These discussions can happen over the phone, in person, or through email. This will all depend on how the employer prefers to communicate and will probably follow suit with the medium used for the interview and any other communication sense. If your negotiations go well, you are ready to formally accept the job offer. You will need to decide what medium you will use to respond, but email is commonly accepted and also gives the employer immediate notice as opposed to physical mail, which takes days to arrive. If the employer has a specific request about how you respond, this is the medium you'll want to choose. When drafting your response, you want to pay attention to formatting and ensure that you edit thoroughly. Even though you have secured the position, you want to reinforce why you were chosen and continue to make a stellar impression. You will want to start again with expressing your gratitude for the opportunity and then restating the final offer details as you understand them, including your expected title, a summary of salary and benefits, expected start dates, and any special negotiations that were agreed upon. You will then want to clearly explain that you are accepting the offer and mention your excitement to begin. If there is a particular aspect of the new job that excited you, don't hesitate to include that. Just remember to keep it brief. Then you can conclude with any questions that you may have ahead of your start date, such as special instructions for your first day, where you should park, if there's any paperwork that you can fill out beforehand. When sending an email, make sure that your subject line is clear and easy to find. For example, job offer acceptance followed by your name. Ensure that you are proofreading your response as you want to continue to make a good impression and solidify that the employer made the correct choice in offering you the job. So what are your next steps after officially accepting a new job offer? You will need to make sure that you give your current employer adequate notice of your resignation. 2 weeks notice is most common, but if you would like to provide more notice, there is certainly nothing wrong with that. Before you submit your notice, ensure that you have a confirmed start date and that any final steps, such as reference conversations or background checks, have been completed by your new employer. It is usually best to first speak with your current employer before sending in an official resignation letter, so reach out to your manager and request to set up a meeting to discuss your planned departure. After this informal conversation, it is important to submit a formal resignation letter to your current employer. This should include the clear statement that you were writing to submit a formal resignation and provide your intended last day of employment. Regardless of your reason for leaving your current position, it is important to keep resignation letters professional and not to include any grievances that you may have with the company or management. This letter will most likely go in your employee file, and there is the possibility that it could come back to haunt you. To keep your professional relationship positive, even through the departure, it is important to tell your current employer what you appreciated about your time with the company and wrap your letter up with what steps you will be taking to hand off projects and responsibilities to ensure a smooth transition. This may include wrapping up outstanding projects, offering to help train a new employee if they are hired before you leave, sharing any documentation that you kept regarding processes that are important to the role, and compiling a detailed list of everything that you were responsible for. It will be helpful to the employee that takes your former position to have access to any documents that they may need to be successful, including detailed instructions for any processes that maybe only you were aware of. The conclusion of your resignation letter is also a good place to offer to stay in touch with your former employer. Keeping that networking door open may provide you with more opportunities in the future, and building up your professional network is always important. Now that you have informed your current employer of your departure, it is time to prepare for your first day in your new position. It's important to clarify any steps your new employer expects you to take before beginning your first day, including completing onboarding or benefits paperwork, going over any training materials, confirming orientation details, or if there are any items you should come prepared with on your first day. Do we have any questions about declining and accepting offers?
No.
Thank you, everyone. This does conclude today's class on follow-up. Before we go, I'd like to share just a few more library resources with you. If you have a short question that you'd like library staff to answer, you may submit it online at any time using our Ask a Librarian service. A librarian will usually respond within 48 hours with the information that you need. If you want more one-on-one help from one of our librarians, about 30 minutes and the chance to go over your specific questions, you can complete a Book a Librarian appointment request. Each of those sessions is tailored to your specific needs and is compatible with your schedule. Our blog, Plano Library Learns, features book lists, program recordings, and other useful information, and you can explore more business and career resources from the associated tab. You can also view past programs on our YouTube channel, including the other classes from this series. To see more upcoming business and career programs, please check out the program calendar on our website, or you can pick up a copy of our Engage brochure at any library or available online. Look for those pages on business and career to see all of our virtual and in-person offerings. As a final note, as we end today, do remember that you will receive a link to the recording from today's class in a few days, and it will be posted to our YouTube channel as well. And also to learn more about the library, our programs and services, library staff, and the community, please take a moment to listen to our Plano Library Speaks podcast. New episodes premiere on the 1st of each month. As you leave the program today, please do take a moment to complete our program survey. We value your feedback as a way to determine next steps in our programs and provide content that is relevant and engaging for you. Once again, thank you for attending this afternoon's program and enjoy your day.